Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into a topic today suggested by one of our listeners. They were curious about how online dating is shaping up in the LGBTQ plus community. And, well, it's not as simple as just swiping left or right. It's a whole different ballgame.
It really is. I mean, it's more than just finding a date, right? It's about finding your people, your community.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus world, that online space is so important.
Absolutely, and the numbers really back that up. Our friends over at Pew Research Center, they did this whole study.
Yeah.
And get this, 51% of LGBTQ adults have used a dating app. Compare that to just 28% of straight adults. It's a huge difference.
Huge, yeah. And it really shows just how vital these digital spaces are for LGBTQ plus connections. Like, think about it. In a lot of places, being out and proud isn't easy. Sometimes it's even risky.
Yeah, and it's like what we were reading in that Mashable article. It was saying how apps, like Grindr, for example, back in the day, they were revolutionary. And not just for dating, but because they, quote, broke down significant barriers to finding fellow LGBTQ people. Like it was this digital safe haven, especially for people in communities where being themselves openly wasn't safe.
Totally. And that need for connection, it doesn't really have an age limit either. Like we see younger LGB adults are more likely to have tried online dating, sure.
Yeah.
But across all ages, they're just as likely to be actively using these apps.
It's like, yeah, finding your tribe no matter where you are in life.
Exactly.
But you know what's interesting to me? The study also found that across the board, men are more likely to use these apps than women. LGB or straight, it's a trend.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Oh, that's a complicated one. There are so many factors that could be at play there. We could do a whole other deep dive just on that topic.
So we've talked about the impact these apps have had. But let's talk about Grindr for a sec. It's
Yeah.
practically a household name at this point. But that Mashable article, it kind of painted this picture of Grindr going a little off the rails. What do you think?
Yeah, it's true. They were the pioneers for sure, but they are facing some hurdles now, especially when it comes to keeping users happy.
Yeah, like all those bugs, right? The article mentioned tons of them. And then they're putting more stuff behind paywalls, more subscriptions. It's like they had a good thing going and then just messed with the formula.
And it's a big deal, too, because for some users, Grindr isn't just a dating app. You know what I mean? It's their lifeline to the LGBTQ plus community, especially in those places where being out is still, like, kind of difficult or even dangerous. So even small technical issues, paywalls, things like that, they can really impact people in a real way.
Right, totally. And the article actually quoted this one user, Gus, I think it was, and he was saying these changes are really tough on people, especially in smaller towns or for people with disabilities. They rely on Grindr even more to connect with others.
Absolutely. It really highlights that whole issue of digital equity. Like, we can't forget that for some people. These platforms aren't just about finding a date. It's about finding a space to be themselves.
Exactly. It's about community. Okay, but here's the thing that's kind of weird to me. The article also mentioned that Grindr is still making tons of money, like a lot of money. So it's not like they can't afford to fix these issues, right? So is it just a case of profits over people?
Well, it's tricky, right? Like, they got to make money to keep things running,
Yeah.
obviously, but not at the expense of the community they're supposed to be serving. It's a tough balance to strike.
For sure. So if Grindr's dropping the ball, who's picking it up then? Are there any other apps stepping up and trying to do things differently?
Oh, absolutely. There's a whole new generation of apps out there, and they're learning from Grindr's mistakes. They're trying to do things better.
Interesting. Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, for one thing, they're really putting the LGBTQ plus community front and center. And I don't just mean in name only, but like in their whole approach.
Okay, so they're actually walking the walk. I like it.
Exactly. And take advertising, for example. Instead of those like super generic ads you often see, some of these newer apps are partnering with companies that actually align with LGBTQ plus values.
Oh, so it's like advertising with a conscience. I can get behind that.
Yeah, it's about time, right?
For sure.
But it goes deeper than just who they work with. They're also really focused on making the actual user experience, enjoyable. No more paying an arm and a leg to send a message or dealing with constant technical glitches.
Right, because who wants to deal with that?
Exactly. Nobody. The Mashable article actually mentioned this guy, Eric, who uses this app called Sniffies. It's specifically for certain interests within the LGBTQ plus community. And it just highlights that there's a whole world of these niche dating apps out there. It's about catering to specific needs and desires, finding your own little corner of the dating world.
Finding your people. I love that. Okay, but hold on a second. we can't talk about the future of dating apps without mentioning this whole AI thing, right?
Yep.
Grindr is developing an AI wingman. Did you hear about this?
I did, yeah. It's pretty wild.
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, right?
Like, according to that Wall Street Journal article we read, it goes way beyond just suggesting matches. We're talking suggesting date spots, even interacting with other AI wingmen. It's like a whole digital dating ecosystem run by algorithms.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing. But it definitely makes you think, you know? Like, could an AI ever really understand the nuances of human connection? Especially within the LGBTQ plus community, where there's so much diversity and complexity. And how do you even begin to teach an AI about a world where being out isn't always safe, where anonymity can be so important?
Right. And especially given Grindr's past issues with data privacy, you know? That makes you wonder.
It does. It's like they're trying to solve problems by adding this whole new layer of technology. But that technology could come with a whole new set of problems, you know?
It's a double-edged sword, for sure.
Exactly.
So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
For sure.
It'll be fascinating to see where it goes from here.
Definitely.
It is pretty amazing, though, right?
It really is, yeah.
Like a breath of fresh air. And the Mashable article, it mentioned a few of these new apps, Taimi, SCRUFF, Jacked. They're all kind of like vying for that top spot now, you know?
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me is it seems like they're all really making an effort to put the LGBTQ plus community first. And I don't just mean like in name only, but like their whole approach, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. It's about actually walking the walk, not just talking the talk. And I think that's really important.
Totally. So how are they doing that?
Well, take advertising, for example. Instead of using those like super generic ads you see everywhere, some of these newer apps are partnering with companies that actually align with LGBTQ plus values.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're choosing to work with brands that really understand and support the community.
Oh, so it's like advertising with a conscience.
Exactly.
I like it.
It's about time, right?
It really is.
Yeah, but it goes even deeper than that, too. Like, they're also really focused on the user experience, making sure it's actually enjoyable, you know? No more having to pay, like, crazy amounts of money just to send a message, or constantly dealing with all those annoying bugs and glitches.
Yeah, because nobody wants to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's like, just let me use the app in peace.
Exactly.
So it sounds like they're really trying to address some of those pain points we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, for sure.
They're listening to users, which is so important.
It is. And the Mashable article actually gave this example. It was talking about this guy, Eric. And he uses this app called Sniffies. And it's like specifically for a certain interest within the LGBTQ plus community, right?
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And it just highlights this whole other aspect of the online dating world. Like, there are all these niche dating apps out there. It's not just one size fits all, you know?
Totally.
You can find your own little corner of the dating world. It's about catering to specific needs and desires, you know?
Finding your people. Love it. Well, that was a deep dive into the world of LGBTQ plus online dating. From the rise of Grindr to this whole AI wingman thing. It's been quite a journey.
It has.
And it's clear that these apps are about way more than just swiping left or right, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're about connection, community, and finding your people.
Oh, sure.
And that's something that resonates with everyone, no matter who you are or who you love.
Exactly.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep those conversations going. Bye, everyone.